This lesson deals with probably the most common strong player type that we will play against, tight aggressives. These players make a ton of money at the game of poker as they combine tight pre-flop play with a strong understanding of post-flop play. They aren't as tight as NITs, and they aren't as loose as lags, but when it comes to good thinking players, these guys go right near the top. In full ring, tags have relatively tight stats with a VPIP as high as 14, and a pre-flop raise of as high as 12. They do very little limping. That explains the difference of only 2% between these two numbers, and are thus very aggressive pre-flop. This aggression carries over to after the flop, as their aggression factor will typically range from 3 to 6. In 5 max games, they have tight stats as well, with VPIP of as high as 26 and a pre-flop raise of as high as 24. Again, the aggression will range from about 3 to 6 in 5 max games as well. Tags have a great understanding of the game, and it shows in the following strengths of their play. They are solid. They make very few mistakes equity-wise post-flop, and even fewer mistakes pre-flop. They know which hands will get them into trouble, and they avoid them, while they know which hands are worth gambling on and play them accordingly. Point is, they have both good foundation and skill, so they are very tough to win from. The fact that they have such good hand selection means that a good percentage of the time they will be showing down the goods. With that in mind, most opponents don't give action to tight aggressives. Because of their tight image, they're able to get a lot of folds when they bet. So, this means they're also able to get away with a fair number of bluffs. Now, tight aggressives do a fair bit of bluffing, but you'll never see it. They make small bluffs that we teach here at Grips.com, but when the money gets big and when opponents play back, they'll only continue to give action if they've got the goods. And we're only seeing the showdown if both parties are willing to get there. As I've said before, tags know how the game works, and so they play their hands for proper value. They know which hands are good for 1 street of value, 2 street of value, 3 streets of value, or all in. And they rarely miss out on value bets. Our only advantage is that by knowing their thinking, we can blow them off hands that they are attempting to pot control with. But again, it's very tough to win money off these guys, so I wouldn't recommend going into battle unless you've got a good reason. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Nobody's perfect, so let's get on to the weaknesses of tags. Tags very much like to be in control of the action. When things don't go according to their plans, they sometimes get confused and lose their bearings. So, to make sure they don't run us over, we're going to have to deal out our fair share of counter-aggression against them. This means re-raising before the flop. This means raising on the flop. It means not falling into their plans of having us just call for them. We're going to be putting the pressure right back in their face. Tags also, while they're good players, they aren't the best hand readers. That would be more of loose aggressives that are great at hand reading. They do a good job of reading the action, betting patterns and such, but they're only really able to do this when they're in position. By forcing them to play out of position, either calling their raises before the flop when we're in position or re-raising them from position, we can take them out of their comfort zone while getting into ours. Of the regular player types, nits, tags, and lags, I think that tight aggressives are the most likely to tilt. When tags don't have full control and things aren't going their way, they often get frustrated. Similar to weak tights, tags do have a breaking point, and if we can be there for it, there's usually a few stacks up for grabs by donation. Tags also overthink, especially when they're in these slightly tilted mind states, and they try to look at the big picture of what's been going on with them relative to their opponent who's been re-raising a lot, whatever, the past action. And this often leads them to make a poor decision in the moment because they're thinking about the metagame, the big picture too much, when sometimes It's a lot simpler than that, and they just need to be paying attention to what's going on right then and there. So while they are extremely strong players, if you can get under their skin, they're definitely exploitable for a lot of small pots. Just don't be going into your game expecting to stack these guys, because the money's only going in against them if you both have a really strong hand. So let's look at what adjustments we will make to our game to put ourselves in a position to profit against this opponent type. The first is that we want to re-raise in position. If we are planning to play a hand where a tag is raised, and most of the time we shouldn't, we should just fold. Unless he has raised from early position, re-raising is typically the best play. If it's going to be a heads-up pot, we do not want to be flat calling a tight aggressive player's open. It's way too hard to play against them. As well as premium hands for re-raising, I would also suggest adding in 6 or 7 different suited connectors of your choice to add to your range for 3-betting them when they are opening from middle or late position. So just the same way that you would re-raise when you have aces or kings, you're going to pick a few random hands to re-raise them with when they've opened from late position. This is because tight aggressives will fold upwards of 80% of the time to a 3-bet. Technically, this means that 3-betting them with any 2 cards is profitable, but that's a little too much variance for my liking. So as long as you aren't 3-betting too often, such that they still give you credit for a real hand, you'll get a ton of folds and pick up a lot of small pots. And if they do call your re-raise pre-flop, just fire out a big continuation bet. Most of the time you're going to take it down. But, like I said, for the most part, we should simply respect their tight pre-flop play and fold when they raise. We're not looking to get involved with these guys unless we have to. On the flop, we want to do a fair bit of re-bluffing against the tags. We got to be playing back. We can't let them be in control. We know which boards they like to continuation bet with everything they've raised pre-flop. This would be the dry boards. But we also know that those boards are hard to connect with, and most of their range of potential holdings did not like that flop. So against tight aggressives, you want to bluff raise their continuation bets on these boards some percentage of the time. You'll get a lot of folds when they didn't actually connect, as well as you'll set a good precedent for when you do pick up a big hand, you can make your same raise on the dry flop, and they might think you're bluffing because you've raised them before and they didn't see your hand. They might get frustrated. Now be sure to only pull this play when you are in position, because if you are out of position, it's too easy for them to call and see what you do on the turn. And don't pull this play in a re-raised pot. This is only a good play to do if the pot has been raised and called before the flop. Also, we want to lead into them on these same boards as a bluff. If they've raised and we just called before the flop, we have to do what we call donk betting. This means that we're betting when we don't have the lead in the hand. It's kind of the opposite of a continuation bets. And tags, for the most part, have no idea what to do when you donk bet into them. So if they react by raising us every time, which a lot of tags do because they see donk betting as a sign of disrespect, then we adjust. We only lead with our big hands and check fold the marginal ones. But since they've seen us fold to their raises when we donk bet, they're going to keep doing it. If, however, they're the type of tag to just fold whenever you donk bet, just keep doing it until things change. When we have the lead in the hand, we have to apply a lot of pressure against tight aggressives. Tags will call to keep us honest, sometimes more than once in one hand, but they don't like calling big bets. So when double barreling or triple barreling tight aggressives when you have to, I suggest betting at least 80% of the pot size on the turn. Maybe even 90% or full pot. If you make your bets bigger, tight aggressives won't float you as much, and they won't call you with weakish hands as often. You'll get much more accurate information for your bets, and it'll make your decisions a lot easier. Betting big is also good because if we're betting big with our bluffs, we also get a bet big with our made hands, and we're more likely to get paid. And the last adjustment against tags is what is called a float. If you're unfamiliar with the concept, it means calling the flop bet with nothing because you think they're continuation betting without much, with the intention of stealing the pot from them on a later street. This is an alternative to the aforementioned bluff raise, which costs you the same amount, but allows you to get more information, since we get to see what they do on the turn before attempting our steal. Now you'll find that against some tight aggressives, on wet boards it's better to float, and on dry boards it's better to bluff raise, and against others it's the complete opposite. With experience you'll learn which play is the best to counter your opponent's strong aggressive nature. Now the reason we pull these plays is because tags are betting the flop without a hand a lot. And we can't just fold and allow them to pick up pot after pot, because they're going to be gaining a lot of value from us that way. We have to make a stand to slow them down and show them who's boss. Don't overuse the float, bluff raise, or donk bet. If used too much, you'll end up spewing a lot of money and people will pick up on the fact that you're full of shit. However, they are must-haves for your poker arsenal, and if used properly, can be a great moneymaker. So if I can say one thing before I finish this video, it's that these adjustments are to be used sparingly. For the most part, we want to avoid strong players and prey on the weak ones. Your primary plan should be to simply avoid the regulars and fold to them pre-flop. Sometimes we are forced to play pots with good players, and when you do, these are the tools you will need to succeed. Now you're prepared for battle. Best of luck.